for the Thunder added to the list of impressive comeback victories on the season.
There were so many fantastic Thunder games throughout the course of the 2019-20 season, and a lot of them had a similar formula. Thunder gets down big early on, makes a massive heroic comeback in the second half, and a home win in late February against the Sacramento Kings fit that to a T, 112-108 over a feisty Sacramento squad. Guys, Thunder had to come back from down 19 to win this one. What did you take away from the victory as you looked at it in terms of the full 48-minute effort?
It requires different ways to generate victories in the NBA. And this was a night when they were down 61-50 at halftime. Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder, consistent offensive forces all season, generated a combined 5 points. So they knew they had to get actively integrated and involved in the offense, which they did in the second half, combining for 25. But the bigger thing, guys, to me was Thunder did a poor job defensive rebounding. They gave up 16 second chance points in this game, and they could not get a handle on Sacramento's offense on the defensive end the entire first half. So the second half required adjustment. They were able to adapt and adjust. Credit the coaching staff and then the players for going out and executing that. But Michael, a much better job in the second half of this game on the defensive end of the floor, generating stops and then punctuating those stops by getting defensive rebounds.
Well, you know, first of all, Matt, Sacramento's a hard team to play against because it seems like every year they get younger, first of all, and it's they play with such energy, and when that energy is right, they're good. Is it sustainable? Not yet. I mean, Luke Walton, head coach, you know, had been grinding that team at that point. We've got to keep getting these signature wins. We want to get in that 8th place playoff conversation. You got to realize when you're playing the Kings at this point in the season, that's what they're thinking. If we go in here and we beat Oklahoma City, that's a signature win for us. Now, I have a little bit of a crystal ball. The next night, they go into Memphis on a second night of a back-to-back and beat the Grizzlies, who was the 8th place team. So, you know, you had to answer all that and get by that kind of energy. You settle down into the game. You're down big again. Now, we've been there before. You know, we're not too worried about being down. No lead is really safe against the Thunder at this point in the season. And I think the Kings felt that pressure coming out in the second half. The biggest question is, can you control Buddy Hield? Because he's always had some big games against the Thunder, and I thought that's what they did in the second half. That was a big key. They chased him off that three-point line, and they exchanged defenders on him, mixed coverage, and it was a problem for the Kings to figure out. And before they figured out how to get the ball to Hield, the game was pretty much over. The Thunder had them chasing it late in the ball game.
Yeah, what is it about Sacramento always playing the Thunder tough? I mean, it never seems like it goes smoothly or easily, and the Thunder really had to work for this one too, and it was two good teams coming in playing well. Sacramento had won 3 in a row, fight, as you said, Michael, for the playoff seed, potentially in the 8th spot. And the Thunder were coming off of a big win against Chicago on the road where they blew a 24-point lead. You end up following that game up with a loss to Sacramento. It just kind of wipes away all that work. So I thought the Thunder did a good job mid-game of making an adjustment of slowing down the dribble penetration of Sacramento. There was no De'Aaron Fox, but Corey Joseph was doing a good job of getting inside. And the Thunder defense finally stepped up in the second half. And to me, this was a quality team effort where you had 6 different players scoring in double figures, which was very much on brand for the Thunder throughout the season and how they were able to pull out games. But Sacramento, for whatever reason, always seemed to play the Thunder tough.
I want to pick up on a couple points Chris just made, which was the adjustments. You know, another example of the Thunder recognizing they were having trouble with fouling, defending in the paint, and defending post-ups. And they were able to flip the script in terms of the free throw attempts in that second half. That was huge. And then to Chris's point about the balanced attack, it was the 5th straight game for the Thunder with 6 or more players scoring 10-plus points. That was a big deal, and it's been kind of a hallmark of the Thunder's game all season long. What stood out to you about the way that this Thunder team's offense flowed, particularly in that second half?
I think the 2 point guards that had such a flat line first half offensively recognized they had to get it kick-started, whether it was scoring or setting up teammates, because their assist numbers, both Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder's, were down in that opening half as well. But I think this clearly became a case of defense fueling offense, Nick, because the Thunder began turning the Kings over. And the Kings' youth, as Michael hit on earlier, really showed itself in that third quarter where the Thunder totally turned the tables, outscored Sacramento 31-21, adjusting to the way they covered the key cogs for the Kings. And Buddy Hield was right there. Harrison Barnes had a big night for Sacramento. They forced him into a number of contested, tough three-point shots that he failed to make during that critical juncture of the game. And going into the fourth quarter, even though the Thunder still trailed by a point, clearly momentum was on their side. The crowd was behind them, and they had this thing rewrited. But it requires that dig-in effort in the third coming out of the locker room, because if it continues to slip, say, 6 minutes into that third quarter, you're in big trouble against a young team seeking to show its wares on the road. Remember, Barnes made the statement right at the All-Star break that he's not shaving until this team gets back to 500. So he came out and he was playing as good a basketball as he has throughout the course of his career. By the way, that hair is still growing. Yeah.
Don't worry, Matt. He can't get a haircut anywhere anyway.
No, he can't. He's in trouble for this.
No, I thought that the Thunder's adjustments were fantastic there in the second half. And really, once they made the adjustment of slowing down and putting a little pressure on the three-point line, Sacramento didn't really have a whole lot of answers. I mean, they had a 19-point lead with 7 minutes left to go. And once those three-point shots started to dry up, and once the dribble penetration started to dry up, they didn't really have any answers. And the Thunder forced them to miss 9 consecutive shots. And Chris Paul did a great job just stabilizing the game again, getting to the free throw line, coming out of a timeout and making a shot. His knack for finding timely plays this season was on full display, of just kind of trying to get the offense a little bit of traction when it needed it most to dig into that 19-point deficit. And then it allowed everybody else to kind of step up at their given moments. So a real nice second half for this Thunder team. And they trailed pretty much throughout this game. It was not an easy game, and somehow found a way to get it done in the fourth quarter. The 15th game where the Thunder had trailed going into the fourth quarter and came out with a win. By far the most in the NBA.
Well, I like the balance that was happening in this game, too, because what we had learned up to this point is that there was some really good balance in this roster. I thought Steven Adams was kind of like the unsung hero. We knew that two-guard lineup or the three-guard monster, Schroeder, CP3, and Shea was a problem. But I thought Adams, for his fifth straight double-double, at that point he was averaging over the last 5 games 16 points, 12 rebounds. When that kind of production is inside from him, along with the guys from the outside, they're going to wear you down. And I thought this is what they did to the Kings, much the way they've done to a lot of teams coming from behind. Just wear you down with numbers and balance on the roster.
Steven was one of the guys that was passing the ball, dishing it around. He had a lob to Danilo. Danilo finished 2 lob dunks in this game. And afterwards on the walk-off interview, Danilo said, "I'm just a freak of nature, man." He's one of the many guys that really stepped up big time. If you had to pick a man of the match, or maybe a crucial decision or aspect of the game to give the accolade to, what would it be, guys?
I'm going to go with the Thunder getting to the free throw line in the fourth quarter. They got to the free throw line 15 times to Sacramento's 2. That is a huge discrepancy when the offense was struggling throughout the game. Getting to the fourth quarter to the free throw line really flipped the script for the Thunder. Something that they've been doing throughout the season. It was really a benefit that they utilized, and they did it again here to Sacramento.
We talk all the time about Thunder closing defense, but their offense down the stretch has been really good the vast majority of the season after they got their legs through the first month and a half of the season. This was a game in which they scored 31 in the fourth after 31 in the third. When you generate consistent flow of offense and you frustrate defenses by getting to the line, as Chris laid out, it takes a toll. So there's an attrition that you see unfolding on the floor. And I think we saw that at critical times in this game by the young King roster. They did not respond when they had pressure put on them, including in that fourth quarter where they could not defend the Thunder without fouling them.
Well, Billy Donovan's always talked about, he was talking about this a little bit after the game. When the going gets tough, this team pulls together. And I'm going to say collectively the whole team effort, because that's really been the story of this team. From Adams cleaning up the rebounding inside, really being a force and protecting the paint. The drives of Schroeder, CP3 just making it do what he do. I mean, we've seen what he's done his whole entire career. No different here. in Oklahoma City. And then I thought the other big moment that consistently happened, not just, I guess I could probably say that better, was slowing down Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield was killing the Thunder in the first half. He only had 12 in the second. I remember watching him in the fourth quarter get taken out of the game by Luke Walton, and they actually exchanged words in like anger because he was frustrated because his shots weren't falling. There was guys hanging on him, and he had that looseness in the first half or first 2.5 quarters. He couldn't get those shots off. He was a little frustrated. Luke was a little frustrated. That's a good sign for the Thunder.
Despite being down 19, you didn't see the Thunder lose its poise in that same way. And I looked to the end of that third quarter and a play that SGA made during this big run that really exemplified that. It's this huge charge by the Thunder. He's driving down the middle of the lane late in the shot clock. Very easily could have tossed up a kind of rough floater. Instead, had the poise and the wherewithal to drop off a little lefty dump-off pass to Nerlens Noel for a huge dunk. And guys, that really helped keep the Thunder's momentum going heading into that final frame and showed, hey, we're going to still make the smart play even while we're playing with a lot of emotion. It was an emotional win for sure. Chesapeake Energy Arena was rocking. And guys, it's another great Thunder win as they continue to put pressure on the teams above them in the standings during that portion of the season. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me today and for tuning in, Thunder fans. We'll see you guys soon.